Welcome to the August 11th East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Apologize for the delay. We ended up losing power through the storm and had to reboot everything. At this time, I will call to order our hybrid meeting here. I'm Scott Lambert, and I'm joined by Vice Chairman Rich Orlow, Supervisor Sue Drummond, John Nagel, Township Manager, our Township staff, and Solicitor Joe McGrory. At this time, we will begin the meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just to remind everyone, the hybrid meeting here is being recorded. Residents will have an opportunity to comment after each agenda item that we discuss by the board, and any non-agenda items that residents wish to discuss will occur during the public comment section. I believe it's down at number 8. When that happens, if you could identify yourself, and Donna Weichert will assist you getting in and having discussion with us. At this point in time, I'd like to take an opportunity to honor some heroes. Every day, emergency responders put their lives at risk every day to protect us. And in the past month or so, we've had some sad situations occurring, not in this township, but in others, but we wanted to give a moment of silence for two fallen heroes. One was at Penwyn Oakbrook Hills Fire Company, Sean Demlick. He was operating at the scene of a residential fire when he was found unresponsive on the 3rd floor of a single family dwelling. He was treated and rushed by the EMS to Lankenau Hospital, where he passed away in the early morning hours of Monday, July 25th. Sean was only 35 years old. Second was 49-year-old Tom Rhodes, a firefighter for Belmont Hills Fire Company. He and his team were responding to a car accident on the Schuylkill Expressway in the early mornings of July 24th. At 3 a.m., when they were ready to leave the scene, a car hit him, a few other of his comrades, and a state police officer. Tom went into a cardiac arrest at the scene. He was taken to ambulance to Paoli Hospital, where he died later that morning. Heroes. So I'd like to take a moment of silence for them.
You, Ted.
Doing well, thank you.
Okay, I've just
Like everybody else.
I've got our nod from our expert technicians that we're back live.
There we go.
Ted, you can hear me, see me, whatever?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right, so I guess we're back. We had just ended with our moment of silence, so I'll move on to our board briefings. We had executive sessions today at 5 p.m. for real estate, personnel, and legal reasons. Next, we are going to be connecting with a U.S. Representative, Chrissy Houlihan's office, Scott Nelson.
Thank you, and thank you for the moment of silence for
Thomas Rhodes and Sean Demlick. I live in Lower Merion Township, and they were both firefighters here in Lower Merion. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about what our office has done in the past year. We passed the American Rescue Plan, and that resulted in an enormous amount of funding for projects in Chester County and Southern Berks County, which is where which is what Pennsylvania's 6th congressional district is. And we kind of knew what people wanted because of the engagement that we got from our constituents, municipalities, organizations, nonprofits, all sorts of entities. And it sort of underscores the importance of having a dialogue with our communities. So I just want to give my email at the end of this so that you have a point of contact. We like to speak to all 92 municipalities at least once a year in this format, and we find it very useful for knowing what is important to our constituents. So I won't go through the list. It's many pages of funding that we got, in infrastructure. Some of the categories are infrastructure, small business through the SBA, education, Veterans Affairs, healthcare, agriculture, and so on and so forth. Environment, supporting local law enforcement. But it's something that Chrissy's very excited about. And you probably know that the Senate passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill this morning around 5 a.m. It's something the House will be taking up probably in September, if not sooner. And then there's another infrastructure bill, which the Senate passed the framework for today. Also, it was a busy day for them, and then the House will have to debate that soon. So we look forward to hearing from our stakeholders to know what their priorities are, so we can advocate as best as possible. In the meantime, other things that we can help with, we do a lot of what's called constituent services. So we're as a House office, we're your representative within all an advocate really within all of the federal agencies. So things like the GI Bill or issues with the IRS if you're not getting your tax refund, Medicare, Social Security benefits, things like passports. That's been a big issue lately through the State Department. You're not getting the right disability rating through the VA. All sorts of ways in which the federal government touches the lives of people in PA6. We can help with that. We've probably returned just shy of $3 million this year to various constituents through our work with federal agencies. Another area that we can help with is federal grant applications. So that's things like infrastructure applications. Many of the federal agencies offer funding for communities, grant funding, and that's something that we are happy to write letters of support for, and we've had a lot of success helping send dollars back to PA6. We have a staffer who does that. Educational opportunities for college students. We hire about 20 interns per year, both in our DC and Westchester offices. That's really great experience. A lot of those people have, in the time that Chrissy's been in office, 2.5 years, a lot of those people have used those internships to get jobs in Washington and other in Harrisburg. So that's useful. We also have the privilege of nominating highly qualified students for appointment to the nation's service academies, as well as we host a number of programs for students like the Congressional Art Competition, the Congressional App Challenge, and so forth. And lastly, if any of our constituents are visiting Washington, D.C., we can help with a variety of things like obtaining tickets, free tickets, but you still need tickets to get to a lot of the museums and points of interest in DC. The U.S. Capitol building and White House will reopen probably this fall for tours, and that's other things that we can help with. And anytime you want to just stop by, our office is in the Longworth building. You can charge your phone. We have water. We have chocolates from Chester County that we like to give out to people. And if you ever want a U.S. flag flown in front of up above the Capitol, the Capitol Police fly about 50 or so flags per day. We can arrange to have a flag flown for you and then sent to you, commemorating the occasion. So I said I would give my email, and that email is, if you're ready, scott.nelson, Nelson, @mail.house.gov. And there's 2 T's in Scott. We have a number of staff who help with a variety of different issue areas. So depending on what your issue is, I may connect you with one of our other staff members, or we may meet directly. So with that, I'll just ask if there are any questions that I can address.
Scott, I'm going to put you on the spot here. This is Scott Lambert. We've had some preliminary discussions here at the township level on the American Rescue Plan, and we're kind of we're not quite sure which way to go in some directions in terms of the specific items that it can be utilized for. There seems to be different answers depending on whom you speak to and which government office. But if you happen to get some clarification on that and can share that with us here in East Whiteland, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Is there something specific that you're talking about, like maybe unused COVID funds?
No, on the American Rescue Plan, there are specific areas that the monies are allocated for. But those definitions of where that money is to be allocated is rather broad, and so we're trying to narrow it down so we know exactly where it can be utilized.
How about this? If you could send me an email, I will get back to you tomorrow. I'll connect with our staffer who, with the appropriate staffer to answer that question. I don't know the answer to that specifically, but I would be happy to find the answer out. And even if that involves going to, one of the committees, each of the committees have permanent staffers who the committees write the bills, and sometimes they can offer clarifying language. So I'll do whatever it takes to get answers to any specific questions you have.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
For sure.
Could Scott give you an email?
My email is scott, scott.nelson, Nelson, @mail, mail, .house.gov.
Thank you.
Sure. Oh, and then I just wanted to mention one other thing. Because of the constitutionally mandated reapportionment process, which is ongoing, Pennsylvania will be losing one congressional district due to the fact that other states are growing at a faster rate. A lot of southern states and some western states. So we don't know exactly what congressional district will be eliminated. All of Pennsylvania will continue to be represented in Congress, of course, but our congressional district is likely to get bigger. So we think we'll keep Chester County fully, because the law in Pennsylvania says counties should be kept within wholly within congressional districts if possible. We're likely to see a larger part of Berks County come into the 6th congressional. So currently we stop at Wyomissing, but it might go further north or maybe even east. To be determined by a select group of individuals in Harrisburg who are working through the census data now, and we'll find out more. But Chrissy lives in Chester County, and we're pretty sure that Chester County will continue to be part of the 6th. All right. If there are no other questions, I'll take my leave and let you get on to your next agenda item.
Again, thank you, Scott, and thank Chrissy for all her hard work that she's doing in Congress for us here in Chester County.
For sure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Next on the agenda is just an announcement pertaining to the September 25th West Whiteland or Exton Park Community Day. That's going to be Saturday, September 25th at 3 p.m. at 132 Church Farm Lane. And I think, Donna, we've got something on our website, perhaps.
We don't have it up there yet. So
Okay,
the
then maybe we can
announcement
put it
tonight
up
will be
there just so
tomorrow.
people can see what's
be there
involved. There's a number of activities, certainly for adults as well as kids. Under item 2D, we're trying to keep everyone in the loop in terms of our technical grant meetings, public meetings pertaining to Bishop Tube. Steve Brown, if you can give us just a little bit of an update, but it would appear as though at this point in time that we expect to have 2 meetings surrounding that report.
Sure, Scott. I don't have any new news. Last month we discussed this and the DEP had advised, and nothing's changed that I'm aware of, and we still expect them to provide the remedial action plan at the end of this summer. And the question before the board that I posed last month was, how many public meetings did we want to hold in that 90-day evaluation process? And if the board has settled on 2, then that's what it is. That's what was originally envisioned, that we would hold a meeting after we receive the plan and our consultants digest the plan. It would then be presented to the public, and that would be earlier on in the 90-day review period, and then the second meeting would be held closer to the end of that 90 days, where we would present draft comments that would be going to the DEP, to the public, and then adjust those comments as necessary.
Okay, thank you. If you could possibly just, again, come to the mic so you could be heard and indicate your address and who you are.
Peter Hughes, I'm with Valley Forge Trout Unlimited, and you didn't mention who was going to be preparing that remediation plan.
I'm sorry, who is preparing the remediation plan? It's the DEP.
Okay.
Actually, we have a question. Go ahead, Deb, and unmute yourself.
Deb Mobile, 42 Village Way. Is there also a third meeting, which is the meeting to be scheduled by the DEP itself? And who is responsible for setting that up? Will the township be setting that up as well?
There will be a third meeting, and you're correct. The DEP will hold their own public meeting. We are not responsible for setting that meeting up. They have asked for our input regarding the venue for that meeting, which we have yet to provide to them. I asked for some more information. They didn't respond to me, and then it would help us to help them. But it's their responsibility, and it's their meeting.
Okay. I do have an additional question about the site. I don't know if this is it's a follow-up question to our last meeting. It also had to do with the DEP's request for additional security to be provided by Constitution Drive Partners. I'm wondering if the township has seen a copy of that plan. They were asked for a plan, I believe, by July 1st. Has anybody seen that plan yet?
Here, let me respond. I followed up with both the property owner and the DEP after the last meeting. Property owner first, and they stated that their June 24th letter was the plan, was the response to the DEP. And our phone conversation, they essentially reiterated what was in that letter. They did elaborate a little bit on it, but it's essentially what they said in the letter. I then reached out to the DEP. They responded in email, and they said that the email says, while the DEP believes that the proposed security precautions may be adequate, if trespassing continues, we may recommend that the property owner take additional actions, including additional signs, full fence line inspections during the weekly visits, periodic reporting of security measures, and possibly enhanced security measures. They go on to say that the bottom line is that it's the owner that's responsible, that they, of course, do not own or control the property. They will continue to monitor it closely, and they encourage the township to enforce our own ordinances to ensure public safety and security of the property. So that in short, is the DEP's response.
I'm concerned. I'm an angry citizen. They were asked to correct the problem. They were asked to be responsible for the problem. And, you know, to the best of our knowledge, unless our law enforcement officers can tell us that more has been done, the only thing that we've noticed, I believe, was some kind of twisty ties to repair the fence and an additional no trespassing sign. This has gone on through the sands of time. This has gone on for 20 years. And the DEP has asked them to correct it. And I don't believe they've taken proper measures. And I also don't believe, as a taxpayer, that I should be held accountable for our police officers to provide extra security when, in fact, the DEP told the owner it was their responsibility. So I'm wondering if there's some kind of a way that we can wage a protest about this with the DEP, or complain, or have it evaluated in some way. That is my follow-up comment. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Steve, I just have one question to follow up. The 3 meetings, those are intended to be and would be within the 90-day comment period after the recommendation is issued by DEP. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving on with board resolutions and motions. Steve, if you can maybe give us an overview of these items.
Sure, thank you, Scott. Board motion and resolution items A, B, and C are all related to the same thing, which is the new playground that will be constructed as a part of Backton Hill Park. The playground will be purchased through what's called a cooperative purchasing arrangement with the group is called Omnia. CoStars is one that we commonly use. Omnia is another one that is also used and authorized and approved by state agencies. So the first item here is a resolution I believe it's number 31-2021, and that would authorize the township to enter into what's called the Master Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, or MICPA for short. And this is the very short agreement that we would have with Omnia to use their program to purchase Backton Hill Park playground equipment and play surface. And we would be purchasing the equipment and play surface installation from the vendor known as Compan. And so that is item 3C, which is the Compan proposal for the play equipment and installation of that equipment in the play surface in the amount of $690,847.11. That is their proposal. That is what the cost would be. This is different than competitive bid where you're not really certain what the cost will be. So if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have no questions, so. Donna, any comments? Okay. If we could, I'll entertain a motion to all A through E.
Just A through
A,
C.
I'm sorry, A through C.
Right, they're all related. The other two are something different.
Right, A through C.
I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion to approve, let's see, items 3A through C, adopt resolution 29-2021, approve the Master Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, and approve the proposal to purchase the playground equipment so we can get moving on Backton Hill Park after 15, 20 years, right?
Maybe
Okay.
more.
Okay. So we get there.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you. Item 3D is something different. There is a resident of our community who is also a school teacher, and I'm not quite certain how she's become involved in what I'm about to describe, but she and others are promoting basically they're nonverbal communication boards that you will install in your parks, and they're intended mostly for children, but anyone who is nonverbal for whatever reason, they can use these boards to communicate emotions, interests, wants, needs, desires. And I guess the best way to think about it is, I don't know if we can bring a picture of it up, Zach, it's kind of think of it as emojis. There it is. There are actually electronic devices that non-verbal folks use where they actually can press these symbols and the device will speak for them. These boards are not that. They're simply signs. And this was before the Park and Rec Board twice. They were impressed with the idea. The group that is, the local group that's organized this has a deal with a sign company in Westchester. These signs would be manufactured and installed for $600 each. And the Park and Rec Board and I recommend that we purchase 4 of them, one for each of our parks that has a playground, being Valley Creek Park, Down East Park, Battle of the Clouds Park, and soon to be Backton Hill Park.
Any questions? Seems
No,
like-
none. Looks good.
Donna, any questions from the public?
No.
Okay. Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion. Sue?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 4 nonverbal communication boards for $2,400.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes.
Thank you. And the last item is a proposal from the Park and Rec Board. They've been very busy this year, and they've been doing a lot of work through subcommittees that the members of the Park and Rec Board kind of mix and match, and they will meet in between monthly meetings. And one of the committees was working on a movie night, and there was a proposal in your packet. Basically, they're proposing an outdoor movie to be held at Valley Creek Park on October 2nd, somewhere between 6 and 9 p.m. roughly, of course, depending on the light at that time of year. Again, admission is free. It's envisioned that there would be some vendors there with refreshments, and basically the preparation for it and setup would be similar to the way the summer concerts are being handled, with the last one being this month. The maximum cost is $2,500, and so this is before the board to see if the board will accept this proposal and authorize moving ahead with a movie night. I do want to note that we do have money in the budget this year for events like this. While when the money was put in the budget, we didn't know exactly what the events would be, but this is one that has bubbled to the surface.
Should be a fun time. Any questions?
None.
So I will entertain a motion. Rich?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I know a lot of townships do this. Make a motion to approve hosting movie night in Valley Creek Park on October 2nd, 2021, or the alternative rain date.
All right. Sue, do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We have no motions for awards, so we'll move on to the public hearings, which I will turn over to Joe McGrory and Zach Barner.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing to entertain a rezoning ordinance. Introduce into the record Board Exhibit 1, the ordinance itself. Board Exhibit 2, the legal notice of the hearing. Board Exhibit 3, the proof of publication in the daily local newspaper on July 19 and July 26, 2021. Board Exhibit 4, the proof of submission to the Chester County Law Library. Board Exhibit 5, the proof of submission to the Chester County Planning Commission. Board Exhibit 6, the proof of submission to the East Whiteland Township Planning Commission. And Board Exhibit 7 is the affidavit of posting with photos and a map of the posted areas. With that, I'll hand this off to Denise Yarnoff, the applicant's attorney, to do a short presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name again is Denise Yarnoff. I'm here on behalf of the applicant petitioner. And what I'm going to do is turn it over to Jason Dempsey to really do the full presentation of what we want to do tonight. But I just wanted to thank the board for the opportunity to move this forward and to hold a hearing. And we are looking forward to moving through the hearing. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Jason, and then certainly we can answer any questions. And one item before that, I did forward over 3 exhibits before the hearing to Mr. McGrory and to Mr. Barner, which they should both have. One is a concept plan, which we'll be talking about. 2 is the original petition of August 27th, 2020, when we originally submitted for this request for rezoning to RMH. And the third is a link to the township's comp plan and also the township's draft 2020 comp plan, which I would ask to all be included in the record. Thank you. And with that, Jason, take it away.
Thanks, Denise. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Jason.
Okay, great. I do thank everybody for their time, recognizing that a lot of time has gone into this, and our company, DP Partners. I know we've been working with the board, its committees, staff, consultants for approximately the last 4 years. And I have to say, what has probably been a very good change in the culture of development in the township. I think that's included a substantial amount of transparency, communication, and frankly, collective due diligence between staff, its vendors, and the board, as well as ourselves. So we're here today to discuss the change in use of the property from its existing zoning of office business park to RMH. And I think for the benefit of any of those who may just be joining us for the first time, office business park as it is currently zoned allows not only for office, but other uses as well. It was our request in our petition to change the zoning, to change this use, which we think would have a more significant impact on the surrounding residents, businesses, and community members, to change it from that office business park to the residential RMH. And we think that residential RMH would benefit the health and welfare of the township. And how would that happen would be by reducing the potential levels of traffic, noise and light pollution, would also reduce the potential impervious coverage under the current zoning. So the concept plan that we presented, and we have, quite frankly, dozens of them, and the most recent one, which was part of, I'd say, a very cooperative effort between us and the township, does several things. First, it does comply with the township's current and future comp plan. In addition to that, many of the benefits to the community are going to be public access to critical resources such as Valley Creek, walking trails, and a very strong potential of connecting the township, which is part of the comprehensive plan, via a multi-use recreational trail. And I say last but not least, the preservation of approximately 100 acres of this property. If we're successful in the vote to rezone the property, we'll also, just for the benefit of most people who are just joining us, we still need to make a full land development application. And it's going to be at this time, that we're getting into those details, and it's at that time that we'll be seeking site plan approval, which this moment is not. And I want to reiterate the purpose for this hearing is to change the use. So with that being said, I think I've said enough. That's where we're at.
We're happy to entertain any questions. If you want any additional information with regard to the concept plan, we're happy to do that. But it's generally a pretty simple request, and it's a request to rezone the entirety of the tract, the Knickerbocker tract, from OBP, and there's a small portion that is zoned R1, to RMH.
I think we should bring out for the record that the current zoning permits warehousing, and this is a large parcel, so it could potentially accommodate an Amazon or a last mile warehouse or something that carries a lot of truck traffic to it. And it was the concern of the township that if they built as zoned, that it would have a tremendous impact on the township and the township roads. So I think that should be part of the record also. With that, does the board have any questions?
I have no further questions at this point. Rich?
One question, clarification. I know this is not land development. I envision, as part of this development, that the access to two access points. One is up by it's Great Valley Parkway, I believe, where the driving range entrance is right now. That would be part of this, correct?
Rich, that would be part of it. And to be on the record, it has been our intent, and I think we've said this in other meetings as well, that we would be proposing full access at that location where the property accesses both Liberty Boulevard and Sweetsford Road. Of course, that's going to be subject to the approvals by the township and the third-party agencies during the land development process.
Correct. Look, I know I forget how many months ago, there was a mention of it just being an exit, but now it being envisioned to be full access. That's much better. That's all I have.
Any other questions from the board? With that, we'll open it up to the audience to make any questions or comments. Sir? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Frank Donahoe. I'm here representing Valley Forge Chapter of Trout Unlimited. I'm a resident of East Whiteland Township, living off of King Road and Amy Lane. Let me start by saying, as I understand it, this proposal is laid out in Knickerbocker redevelopment is part of this rezoning, showing how this rezoning will be taken care of.
Yes, that's a plan showing a build-out, a potential build-out under the proposed zoning.
And part of that is the declaration of restrictive covenants that goes with that on the property.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. That's the developer has voluntarily placed a covenant on their property restricting development.
Okay, so we will be addressing that in another session or this session?
No, that's solely on behalf of the developer, and it's in recordable form right now and in the possession of the township.
Good. Thank you, Joe. As far as the layout goes here, Valley Forge Trout Unlimited is pleased to see so much of this land going into what will be a passive open space. We want to make sure that as this goes forward, that the Valley Creek gets protected in the most important way. And while we recognize that we need to have open space for people in East Whiteland Township, we'd like to make sure that access to Valley Creek for that trail that is proposed in this plan is something that is well signed to say, stay out of the water. You know, that's a safety purpose too. That strip along 202 is not exactly one of nature's most beautiful areas. So, and I know from personal experience, there's a lot of trash in there, and we don't want someone cutting their foot. So safety is an issue, but also protection of the clean water there by allowing people to have access to it. We'd like to see that well signed. We'd also like to see a major setback which allows for a natural riparian buffer to be developed and grow in that area, particularly in the flatlands next to the stream, which would enhance any trails going through that area. And we have some issues or questions about, not issues, really questions about how the stormwater management will work, and that's probably good for another time. We need to discuss where those stormwater management exits are going, particularly the one that's in the lower section. Oh, I don't know what it's called there. Stormwater Basin 1 is as we look at the diagram, that's one of the most ones of our concern as to where is that going and how is it going there.
If the rezoning goes through tonight, they'll be submitting a plan. There'll be many public meetings regarding that plan. And during the land development approval process, these are proper topics that would be addressed.
Agreed. I just want to point that out in advance so that you know what our questions will be when it comes up. So in summary, basically, we see this as a positive step from the first ones we've seen. We see protection of Valley Creek. We see a lot of public access lands and access for the people of East Whiteland Township. And so we don't have any problems with this as it's going forward. And again, I just point out that Trout Unlimited as a national organization does not support or unsupport development. We are part of an organization that follows the rules and regulations. If DEP proves things, then we are satisfied. But we'd like to see the maximum protection to Valley Creek and its upper reaches as possible to do. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. And Valley Forge, the Trout Unlimited is typically involved throughout this kind of development process, correct? Yes. Okay, good.
Anyone else that's in the room tonight have any other comment or questions? Yes, sir. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Also, Peter Hughes with Valley Forge Trout Unlimited. You had mentioned that if the site were developed as of right now, build out, there'd be a lot of truck traffic. What is the difference between the amount of truck traffic that might be there versus the 400 to 500 daily car traffic that the 280 housing units are going to cause?
Well, depending on the type of warehouse that would be built there, it'd have the same or even more traffic than what the houses would generate, and it would be trucks instead of cars.
400 to 500 trucks.
Yeah, an Amazon facility will generate over 1,000 trucks a day.
And that's
Based on other Amazon facilities.
That information came from our engineering firm, McMahon and Associates. Okay, so
Okay, I guess we'll turn to people on the computer.
Yes, Mark Sagalski, could you unmute yourself, please?
Yes. Hello. Hi. Thank you. Hope you all are well. And my concern is with the restrictive covenant. I'm actually at 25 Almy Drive here in Malvern. And in short, I've sent an actual email to the Board of Supervisors. And my concern would be basically, if we could enter this, I oppose that Knickerbocker tract development as it's proposed due to the actual voluntary declaration. On page 3 of that, you basically have language, this declaration may not be modified, amended, or terminated except by written agreement executed by and recorded by the declarant or declarant's successors, heirs, or assignees, and East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors. I don't know who would write something like this into a contract. I view this as open-ended, subject to change, and needs to be eliminated, and the intent of all permanent restrictions recorded on the final plan if this project is allowed. This sounds real familiar, like we need to pass a bill so we can see what's in it. You want to change this zoning and have a plan possibly modified by the declarant and East Whiteland Township Supervisors. I don't view this as a sound business practice. So I think we need to go in this with our eyes wide open and not have changes down the road while East Whiteland Township residents are sleeping. We need to have everything on the plan spelled out and in detail and recorded, not subject to change by the declarant and Board of Supervisors in the future. Also, the Chester County states, why would you consider this? As currently proposed, this zoning amendment petition is not consistent with Landscapes 3, the county comprehensive plan, because it does not appear to have that this location is suitable for the residential density. So I see you're all getting to yes on this, and my concern is if you don't have any teeth or have some things concrete, you guys will have them coming back and you'll be changing things, and most of the residents will be unaware of it. Thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments, but just a short comment on what you said. The residents will be aware of anything that happens in the future because it has to occur at a public meeting after the residents have given their input. So it's not like anything's happening in a back door. It would be extremely public in the future. So with that, thank you for your comments. Who's next?
Mr. Gerson, can you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you. First, I'd like to echo Mr. Sagalski's comment regarding the restrictive covenants. There really is no benefit to the adjacent landowners, particularly those on Lap Road, of this development. That said, we have worked long and hard with the developer and the township to come up with a plan that would be minimally acceptable. That plan was the last concept plan that we saw. The point about the restrictive covenants not being real covenants or really restrictive going forward changes the game and gives the landowners that did spend that time and did get those preliminary assurances feel like that could change tomorrow. So again, it would be nice to understand and the board clarify whether this concept plan can be wholesale changes, particularly in the areas that are shown as free space and not to be developed in the future, and for the reason that it was negotiated with those landowners. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next.
Martin Lutz, please unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Martin Lutz, and I live at 4 Lap Road. As you are fully aware, I own property that is adjacent to and contiguous with the Knickerbocker tract. The contiguous boundary is approximately 464 feet in length. My property is zoned R1, and the portion of the Knickerbocker tract adjacent to my property is zoned R1 as well. For the record, I hereby incorporate by reference my prior email correspondence over the past 3 years to the Board of Supervisors, Township officials on the proposed rezoning of the Knickerbocker tract. To begin with, the Township website states that the date for the inset site exhibit is July 8th, 2021. As you know, the inset site exhibit is incorporated within the Knickerbocker redevelopment plan dated July 21st, 2021. However, the date on the document itself states that is July 6th, 2021. So my question is there a July 8th version of this document, the inset site exhibit, or is it just an error?
Do you know, Zach?
Jason, do you have a specific answer to that relative to your engineer and the revision dates? I know that there was an attempt to update that, some of the plan notes, but I don't know the dates off the top of my head.
Zach, I've been working from only the most recent plans, so no, I don't have an opportunity to look at any previous plans. I have only looked at the most recent plans that we have, where after working with Mr. Lutz to provide an inset detail for his property, we included that and incorporated that on our plan, which is the most recent one that was provided, and that is on the website. And again, I just want to go back to the fact that this is, they have revisions 902, 702. So again, we're not approving a plan tonight, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Mr. McGrory?
No, you're not approving the plan tonight.
Okay.
It's just a rezoning.
But you have submitted a redevelopment plan for the Knickerbocker tract, or some refer to as the concept plan, dated July 21st, 2021. My question is, it has an inset. Before I forget, Jason, I appreciate you working with me on this. I'm just trying to clarify the dates here so we're talking about the same thing. Township website states that the inset site exhibit is July 8th. The actual inset site exhibit that's on the Township website states July 6th, 2021. I'm just concerned that there may be another version of that inset floating around.
Martin, if I recall, I think there was an original date of July 6th and some tweaks to the plan notes, and they may have been, it would make sense that they would be about 2 days later. So I'm guessing that the revision date shown on the inset likely just doesn't match the date in which it was last revised. But I think you're correct in that the inset map that's shown on the concept plan would be the latest, and it would be the most reflective of the plan notes that were adjusted.
Okay, but that date is July 6th. If you look at the concept plan for the Knickerbocker redevelopment plan, that date is July 6th. If there's a July 8th version, I have not seen it, nor has it been posted on the township website.
So there, and by the way, Mr. Lutz, I you know how we've worked together. I didn't know that this was going to be a question for you this evening. It would have been helpful if we had known this leading up to this. But I can tell you that with definitively and on record, that the inset plan that is on the plan we are reviewing is and was the final plan that you and I and staff had reviewed. So there has been no change to that inset plan as it relates specifically to you. The concept plan, which has a later date, being two separate things because the concept plan we had made additional notes to. So that concept plan reflects any of those new notes that were discussed and agreed to, but discussed and applied to that plan. So they are, even though they are on the same document, they are two separate plans. So one plan was developed prior to the latest concept plan. So hopefully that clears that up. Now I understand what the question was. So
from the discussion, I conclude that the latest version of the inset site exhibit is July 6, 2021, because that is the inset that's on the concept plan.
Yeah, let's move on from this point. I think it's been asked and answered. Do you have anything else?
Also, yes. Also, the township website states that the date for the voluntary declaration of restrictive covenant is August 3rd, 2021. But there is no such date on the document. How is the resident supposed to know what version of the document is being considered here tonight?
I think the latest version of the document, is the latest version of the document on the website, Zach?
Yes, the latest version of the document is on the website. It's since been signed. And just to clarify one point, that the covenant is not being acted on tonight. It's not actually part of the agenda or the action that will be taken tonight.
Yeah, the covenant's a voluntary covenant self-imposed by a landowner. It's not a contract. It's not something that is negotiated with the township. It's just simple restrictions on development that the landowner was willing to impose on himself.
But it is enforceable by the township.
He drafted it where it would be enforceable by the township, yes. The date that I have on the covenant that's to be recorded is actually the 10th of August, 2021.
That'll be the date that it was signed, but it was the same document as what was on the website.
If I may just ask one question further in regard to clarification. Restrictive covenant that was signed, that we're talking about the same version, does that contain the revision which states, and I'll read as follows. This is in regard to restrictions, paragraph C, dealing with mill lane access. In part it reads, this paragraph shall not apply to the rights of the township and the adjacent property owners to have full access on the access road connecting the property to Mill Lane, which includes service road number 3.
Yes, it's in there.
Okay, thank you. If I just briefly mention something else. Chester County Planning Commission submitted a detailed review letter dated August 6, 2021 to the township. Chester County recommends against the rezoning for reasons that the location is not suitable, quote, for the residential density allowed by the proposed zoning due to its existing physical and environmental characteristics, end quote. However, if the Board of Supervisors is to approve the subject rezoning, I would ask that the township give very careful consideration to the comments within the Chester County review letter, particularly within the section entitled Natural Features Protection. Another point, the proposed voluntary declaration of restrictive covenant states that the document can be modified, amended, or terminated by written agreement between the property owner and the township. I would ask that the proposed restrictive covenant be revised so the protections afforded to community and adjacent residents be made permanent. I would suggest that the restrictive covenant be revised to read in effect that it cannot be modified, amended, or terminated in writing or otherwise. Finally, I do not oppose the rezoning of the Knickerbocker tract to RMH, medium high density residential, provided that the tract will be developed in accordance with and consistent with the plan entitled Knickerbocker Redevelopment, dated July 21st, 2021, and provides that the tract will be developed in accordance with and consistent with the inset site exhibit dated July 6, 2021, which is included within and incorporated as part of the Knickerbocker redevelopment plan dated July 21st, 2021. And provided that the voluntary declaration and restrictive covenant dated August 3rd, 2021, document number 03134464, is not modified, amended, or terminated by any written agreement or otherwise between the property owner and the East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors. Thank you for your attention to my comments.
Right, thank you for your comments. To note of the record, it is outside of the jurisdiction of the County Planning Commission to make any comments whatsoever regarding the covenant. They're asked to review a rezoning. The covenant has nothing to do with the rezoning that they were asked to review, and is simply a self-imposed declaration of restrictions on property, self-imposed by the landowner himself. It has nothing to do with the county review, and they were out of line in reviewing it. And besides, they only have planners. They don't have lawyers. And that's a legal document. It's not a planning document. So I would recommend the board just ignore everything the County Planning Commission said about the covenant and then weigh accordingly the rest of the comments in their review letter. With that, anyone else want to speak?
It looks like Mr. Gerson, you have another question?
Well, let's get through one round.
Recording
and
stopped.
then you can go back. Somebody said the recording stopped?
Recording in progress.
Okay, actually, there's a Barry and Carol, you have a question?
Hi, my name is Carol Lady, 248 Sweetsford Road. I had a question about potential residential units and how many people that might accommodate and how that'll affect Great Valley School District.
I'm sorry, this is the court reporter. Could you spell your last name, please?
Lady, L-A-D-Y.
I'm going to defer to Denise on that one.
And I may defer to Jason on that one, on the issue of school children.
I'm happy to. Hi, Carol. Thanks for the question. Appreciate you taking the kind of time to sit and listen to this hearing tonight. So as it relates to the school district, much of everything I'm about to tell you is public record at the school board. So the school district went through a comprehensive plan over the last several years. Those were public meetings of which I attended and had provided the school district with some of the information regarding the plans that had already been in front of the public eye with the board and the planning commission. So in their comprehensive plan, they did take into account this. They are prepared to handle it. Not to go into it too much, but what they're doing is creating a 5th and 6th grade center, not because of this project, but because of a need. And the high school currently has more than enough current and growth capacity. And the 5th and 6th grade center is going to remove the 6th grade classes from the middle school, freeing up the space that they need at the middle school currently and for future growth. And also remove the 5th grade classes from all of the elementary buildings, thereby creating the 5th and 6th grade center. So this plan is well beyond thought. It's actually in implementation, and I believe the school district has already submitted for land development for the 5th and 6th grade center. So there would be no impact to the school district. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you for that. As to the traffic on Sweetsford Road, we already have a problem with speeding with increased volume. Is there any plan to widen the road or do anything to reduce speeding?
Well, Carol, we're certainly looking forward to having that conversation in the land development process, which is where that conversation is going to occur. The traffic engineer for the township, as well as our traffic engineer, are going to be having those discussions. And as far as current speeding and how that is occurring and what can be done today, I'm not the person to answer that question. I would defer to our local law enforcement for that. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
For your
Thank you.
comments. Anyone else?
Yes, it looks like Marshall Fritz.
Hoffritz, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
This question to the board. If there were warehouses placed there, is there any zoning or regulations about traffic as far as timeline and when those buildings could operate? Like a 10 to 12 or 10 to 7 in the morning, no traffic, or would that be a 24-hour kind of operating warehouse?
Yeah, the township's not allowed to regulate the hours of operation. So it would be whatever they want to do.
So if there were warehouses there, you're saying we'd have truck traffic all day, all night?
Right.
Okay, thank you. I have talked to Jason and Chris multiple times about the tracking. And hearing that, I mean, I guess it leans towards me saying, okay, what does this look like? And I would love to hear more. But I think most of my questions have to do with development. What Marty's bringing about the covenant, and what I'm hearing the board say is it was up to Jason and his group to offer that voluntarily. I get that, but we're also maybe leaning towards doing the residential because of the covenant, because of the open space, because of all the amenities that Jason and his group are bringing forward. I for one agree with everything that the Trout Unlimited say. I think there's a lot of positives to the plan of the residencies. I'm not thrilled about the density, but Jason has come forward with, I think, a plan that I can support, in the sense that there's enough other things in this to protect the township with open space, allow us to have creek use. But I am worried about the density. I wish we could do something about that. And again, the Coventry itself, I hear it's voluntary, but I was hoping that we could adjust the wording to make sure that it's not, it sounds too easy to amend. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Next.
Mr. Gerson's the last one.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that the previous speakers have said everything that I wanted to say. Again, I think the board understands the time and effort everybody's put into this process. And, in the aim of trying to be supportive, these restrictive covenants are the only comfort we were given. So I won't say more. I appreciate you looking at changing the wording and making sure that we can sleep at night. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. With that, we'll close.
There's one more, I'm sorry. Marty lets his hands up again. Go ahead, Marty.
Yes, hi. Two things. One, Joe, if you could clarify your comments about the Chester County Planning Commission. I was just looking at their review letter dated August 6th. I don't see anything in there where they address the matter of the restrictive covenant.
I thought you were quoting the letter when you were talking about the restrictive covenant.
No,
I misunderstood.
no, I was not. I was simply saying.
Your own personal opinions then.
I'm sorry, what was that, Joe?
They were just your own personal opinions. They weren't the county.
Well, what I was saying about Chester County review letter had nothing to do with the restrictive covenant. I was simply saying that I was asking the township to give very careful consideration to the comments of the Chester County review letter particularly within a section entitled Natural Features Protection.
Yeah, and
My comments,
they'll take that into consideration. I misunderstood. I thought you were reading something from the review letter about covenants. I don't know when you stopped talking about the review letter and went into your own opinions. So
I'm sorry if I created any
appreciate you
confusion.
clarifying that.
Finally, it seems that a number of residents have raised this issue about the restrictive covenant and the fact that it's modifiable. It's not permanent. And the feedback has been that this has been voluntary on part of property owner, the declarant. So my question back to the declarant is, would you consider changing, revising the language of the voluntary declaration of restrictive covenant so that the restrictions, the protections afforded to community and adjacent residents are made permanent? That's a question.
You wish to answer that, Jason?
I'm happy to. And we're working with facts, and we have been. So not to address too many of the other previous conversations that I felt there was a level of incorrectness. Of course, we don't want any incorrectness being on the record. Any changes would require the board, East Whiteland Board of Supervisors, to approve, not just myself.
He's requesting that you allow, I assume that you allow Marty to enforce the covenant. And I
No,
believe that
no, that's not correct.
You were in negotiations with Marty to do that, and he wouldn't give up his right to appeal, so you withdraw the offer. Is that correct?
I understood Marty's question to be if Jason would consider making the covenant, the voluntary covenant, permanent rather than allowing there to be changes made by the parties.
That's correct, Denise.
Right, and I think that Jason was explaining that any change that we make to the plan as we go forward in land development has to be approved ultimately by the Board of Supervisors anyway through a whole public process. So there's not going to be a change or some gigantic increase of density that's currently in the restrictive covenant.
I hear that, but from a resident's perspective, you're asking us to trust in future boards 10, 20 years from now. This could be changed where a board and the property owner simply comes in and say, hey, we want to use this open space for something else. And boom, it's done. I think the residents are simply asking now, and I read it before, that the restrictive covenant be revised to read in effect that it cannot be modified, amended, or terminated in writing or otherwise. The restrictions in there now will be made permanent.
Yeah, it is permanent until it's changed by both the applicant and the township. The township would have to do it at a public meeting with public input. The public is notified, the public will be aware of it, and they'll have a chance to comment at that point. But I can tell you the way this covenant is drafted is the way all these covenants are drafted, and it's unusual to give any private enforcement rights. Normally, it's just private enforcement rights to the township. The billboard covenant was township-owned property, so that was written a little differently. This is a private covenant, so I haven't seen a private covenant that gives all the residents of the township the right to object to an amendment. So this is the norm. This is not the exception. So you make it sound like there's some grand plan to pull the wool over people's eyes, and there aren't, and there never has been, never will be.
Joe?
That's not fair, Joe. I think what we're saying is it's just sound business practice that you provide for a situation like this and not leave things open-ended. We, the residents, you're asking us, the residents, to trust that everything's going to be above board in the future. We shouldn't have to trust in that. It should be done here and now.
Joe and Marty and all the residents, by the way, in addition to, correct me if I'm wrong, in addition to this voluntary restrictive covenant, there will be a full set of homeowner association documents that are for the benefit of every unit that will be part of this development.
Yes.
And every unit that's part of this development will have the right to enforce those association documents.
Yes.
Those association documents will define the open space. So in addition to, I think that adds a significant another level of protection against change. And I can tell you that to mimic Joe's comment, there is no intention, there is no thought, there is no consideration, and there are no circumstances that I can think of that would necessitate an adverse change to this restrictive covenant. This has been going on for a number of years, and I think it's the best we can do right now.
Okay, with that, is there any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Yes, Frank Tadaho from Valley Forge Trout Unlimited again. I didn't bring this up before, but I support making the restriction of the covenant of restrictions more in line with what Trout Unlimited has done with many landowners in terms of what is allowed and not allowed. And one of the things that's in there, which Denise, your firm has written all these for us, is to allow things but not to have anything that would overturn it. Any way to make those overturned. And I would expect that a lot of this would be discussed prior to getting to the final land development plan, where this would be included with that land development plan.
I think that's a good point, that it would be more appropriate during the land development process to discuss that.
Yeah. But I'd like Jason to take a look at the ones that your firm has written for us, and many of ours, since we can't do easements anymore. They're all covenants of restriction.
I'll share that with Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. So with that, we'll close public comment and reconvene into the public meeting portion of the agenda. This ordinance is now in a position for your consideration.
Any comments?
Just as comments I made in the past, every proposal of any size, especially this, it has pros and cons. And I come down on this side that the pros outweigh the cons. The one negative that I can think of, and I don't know that it's a negative because I certainly like kids, is school students. It will bring more students to the schools, no question about it. Townhouses generally bring less students than single-family homes, so that's a plus. Other than that, I just view this as a benefit compared to the current zoning. The protection to Mill Lane, if this change did not occur, the R1 would be developed and there would be a full-service road out to Mill Lane. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And that alone, from what I'm hearing, is a good level of protection. So that's my thoughts.
Sue?
Just a couple comments. Can you hear me? We've been looking at this plan for a very long time.
Excuse me, is your mic on?
It is. Okay, can you hear me now? All right. We've been looking at this plan for a very long time, and the thing that attracts me to it is the amount of open space that the township is getting. And the developer has agreed to make that space open not just to the residents of the development, but to the entire township. It'll give us access to Valley Creek. Frank, I promise not to wade in the creek. I just think it's given the alternative this or a lot of warehouses, I think this is far superior. And I thank Jason for working through many of the objections we've had over the past year or so. So I'm in favor of this plan.
I have some thoughts that I just wanted to read here, is that, and I'd like to start with the key point that impacted my review of this development, is that the current tract is zoned for a combination of R1 residential, approximately 31 homes in the northwest portion behind Oak Glen, and the other portion zoned for OB, office park, which permits uses such as professional offices, manufacturing, and warehouse. The indications that we received without a rezone to residential is that the land would be developed with an Amazon warehouse fulfillment type center. Through numerous discussions that I had and meetings and emails with residents, it was apparent that the lesser of the two evils from their standpoint was not to allow a warehouse development so close to them, but rather the residential. However, there were a number of issues that the residents brought up that we looked at, and I'd like to just point out a portion of them just to give people an understanding of what changes have gone through in this process. Number one, having Jason removing 12 units behind a resident's property. 2, move stormwater management so as to keep a buffer of trees approximately 100 feet intact, 100 feet behind Gerson's home. Help mitigating sound from 202 and preserve the wooded views. Rework the walking trail away from residents' property and retain a number of 100-year-old trees behind Marshall Hoffert's house. Maintain access through the township. Maintain access through the township on the township road for residents who have property there, Martin Lutz. That still remains. Prevent any access to Mill Lane, as Rich had mentioned. Requiring that 2 exits be put in for in and out rather than only 1. Walking trail, parking access for residents that don't live in the property area, and to be able to access Valley Creek and enjoy that. We did diligent environmental review, which we have been told we went over the top on, but that's fine. And in our interpretation and conclusions were such that we did not allow any development on the driving range because we did not feel comfortable with the environmental results. So for these reasons and the compromises that were made, I'm in favor of the rezoning at this point in time. So I guess we need to make an official motion. So I will entertain a motion. Rich?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the zoning map and text amendment listed in 5A of the agenda related to rezoning of Knickerbocker Tract from R1 to O and OBP to RMH district. Tract located north of 202, west of Old Moore Hall Road, east of Mill Lane, and south of Lap Road.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank thank you to the board and everyone that's worked on this, and we do appreciate your time. Certainly appreciate it and look forward to seeing you soon in the land development process.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, residents, for comments. Moving on, Zach, I'll turn this portion over to you.
Just sort of a point of order. There's still two
I'm sorry, we've
ordinances,
got
yeah.
B and C to tackle as well.
Oh, yeah, they have to go.
It's on the back page.
Absolutely.
Again, at this point in time, I'll entertain a motion for the zoning text amendment.
I'll make a motion to amend, allow a reduction of permitted density within RMH residential district it goes down to 7 from 12, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Joe, do we need to actually open the hearing with the exhibits and all of that as well for each of these remaining
Why
two?
don't we run through that quickly?
Okay.
Okay.
We'll open the hearing, introduce into the record, whereas Board Exhibit 1, the ordinance itself, Board Exhibit 2, the proof of publication, Board Exhibit 3, the notice to the Township Planning Commission, Board Exhibit 4, the notice to the County Planning Commission, and Board Exhibit 5, the affidavit of posting. Does anyone on the board have any questions regarding this ordinance?
No, I have none.
Anyone in the public have any questions regarding this ordinance?
Doesn't look like it, no.
At this point, we'll adjourn the hearing, reconvene into the public meeting portion of the agenda. The ordinance is now in a position for your consideration.
Shall we do that again?
So Sue, if you can
Okay.
rewind and
See
repeat.
if I can say it more clearly this time. I'll make a motion to amend zoning text to reduce the permitted density in RMH from 12 to 7.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Joe, back to
For the next one, we'll open the hearing again. It's to review a zoning text amendment related to visitor parking requirements for certain dwelling types within the table of required parking standards for specific uses. With that, we'll open the hearing, introduce into the record the Board Exhibit 1, the ordinance itself, Board Exhibit 2, the proof of publication, Board Exhibit 3, the notice to the County Planning Commission, Board Exhibit 4, the notice to the Local Planning Commission. And with that, does anyone on the board have any comments?
I have none.
I have none.
Does the audience have any comments?
No.
Hearing and seeing none, we'll adjourn the public meeting and reconvene into the public portion of the meeting, and this ordinance is now in a position for your consideration.
Comments?
No, I have no comments.
I think it's a good change. I think what this is going to accomplish is making sure that there's enough visitor parking in some of our denser areas, and something we've needed for a long time. So thanks, Zach, for doing all the legwork to figure out exactly how to write that. So I think it's a good amendment.
Agreed.
Agree.
And both of these ordinances will apply to Knickerbocker.
Yes.
And will reduce the density of the zoning district you just zoned it to.
Yes.
And it will increase the parking requirements.
Exactly. Right. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve zoning text amendment related to visitor parking requirements for certain dwelling types within the table of required parking standards for specified uses.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And passes. Now, Zach, I hand it over to you for planning and development.
Sure. So for this section of the agenda, these are items for consideration by the board to authorize the solicitor and staff to draft decision resolutions related to these land development applications. The first is land development 19-2020 for 20 Moores Road office building. This is a preliminary / final application for land development to construct a 175,000 square foot office building, new driveway, parking lot, sidewalk, landscaping, and associated stormwater facilities at an existing office campus in the PO Professional Office District. I believe the applicant and their attorney and their team of consultants are here to answer any questions. So with that, I think I'll kick it over to Lou or Greg, whoever will be leading that conversation.
Thank you, Zach. Lou Colagreco here on behalf of the applicant. As Zach stated, this is really a modification, sort of a downsizing of a plan that's already approved for this property. Used to be called the Aegon campus. Now I guess we should call it the St. Gobain campus. But the property is presently approved for 2 office buildings for approximately 198,000 square feet of office space. We'd like to consolidate that into 1 office building with 175,000 square feet of office space. There's not much more to it than that. We have been through, planning over the past 6 months. It's a fairly simple proposal when you consider what's approved for the property now. So I don't want to presume that I'm going to speak here for 20 minutes here about things that you have no interest in. We do have our team of professionals, consultants available. We do have the township review letters. We're fine with those letters. I think everything is in order. But if there are any questions about this proposal, we'd be more than happy to answer them at this time. We can go into as much detail as you'd like. And in fact, probably to help the discussion here, if somebody, Zach, either you or Greg, could punch up just a copy of the site plan so you have some frame of reference and the audience has some frame of reference about what we're talking about here.
Lou, this is Scott. If I can start off on something that I've been hearing from residents, and I know it's listed throughout the plan, but if you can maybe comment for those who haven't had an opportunity to look at the plan, is that there is an existing stand of trees that are right across the street from the Tiva entrance. And those trees are probably 75 to 100 feet tall, pine trees. They're attractive, they give privacy, and they also provide a bit of a sound wall from 202. And I know people are concerned that in the event that those were removed, the impact it would have on them. So I know you've looked at that and you've got some tree removal, but if you could go into some detail, but not the entire stand.
Greg, I'm going to hand this off to you to explain the landscaping protocol for with the proposal, if you would. Greg Newell's our civil engineer.
Sure. As Lou said, Greg Newell with Nave Newell. Actually, Scott, the trees along there, we worked it out with Chris Williams and the McMahon team. We're not actually taking any out. We're actually, I think we maybe even adding a few. We're able to do the sidewalk improvements. That's one thing that's different than the last time we were here. We're actually providing a sidewalk along that frontage, but we're doing it in an area that allows us to put the sidewalk in and keep the trees. So the neighbors won't see any difference. And in fact, it's probably if we blew it up, but we really don't need to. The former plan actually had the sidewalk or path behind the trees, and now we get it out so the neighbors can use it. So it's actually a big improvement, but we will not be touching any of the trees out there.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that, the only trees that will be coming out is maybe a handful where the new entrance, so the sort of on the screen here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, Zach.
There'll be just a few that are removed to sort of, I'll say, punch that driveway through to intersect with the existing driveway to the Westbrook corporate building.
And to clarify, Zach, the trees that you're talking about are in fact some of the tall 75 100 footers, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, anyone who lives in that area knows that some of those trees are in varying health, but for the most part, they appear to be healthy. Our landscape architect did evaluate them, but a few of them would have to come. I believe it's 5 that would have to come out.
5 would be
just to in order to create that access. Yeah.
Okay. Donna, at this time, do we have any comments from the public?
I think we have one. Hold on for 1 second. I think it's Barb Craig. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I actually have two questions. My address is 17 Moores Road, and the new building will basically be built on the existing softball field, and that softball field is on top of a hill. I was wondering if there would be excavation done so the building would be built lower down, basically in line with the current St. Gobain building.
That's not currently the plan. The building will be built on roughly the elevation of the softball field. There may be some lowering. I don't have the grading plan in front of me. I believe it's a little lower to kind of balance out the site. But generally speaking, it's at the roughly the elevation that's out there now, maybe a little bit lower, but definitely not down where the existing buildings are.
So do you know what the difference in elevation from the top of the hill to the top of the building would be? Will we be able to see that building over the trees? Because the trees are at the lower level.
The trees are at a lower level, but you are looking, when you look out, you would be looking up over the trees. I would guess at a sight line, it'd be very borderline how much of the building you see, but I honestly don't know that for sure. But those trees are really tall, so just naturally your proximity shifts your line of sight, up to a much higher elevation. This is a 4-story building. It's not a tall building, and it's consistent with the zoning in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Gary Sheraton. You want to unmute yourself, Sheridan?
Hi, this question's for Lou. Lou, it's Gary. As you know, any development in East Whiteland affects the emergency services. Is there a way to get in touch with doing something to apply some funding to the capital development for fire rescue services?
Gary, you're going to have to repeat yourself. We can't understand what you said. You kind of cut out.
Sorry. I'm trying to do this on a phone from Rochester, New York. What I'm trying to do is, Lou, is there a way to get in touch with the developer to apply some funding to capital for emergency services? Fire rescue, any development increases needs. So we're looking to increase what we get funding for ambulances and fire trucks.
Gary, I'd be more than happy to set up a meeting with you and the owner of the property to discuss that further.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I want to make the record clear. The township is not asking for that. That's not part of the land development approval. I mean, if you're inspired to donate to someone, God bless you. We're not advocating for that.
That's correct, Joe. This is the fire company asking in a public forum for that.
Doesn't look like there's any more questions.
Anything else, Zach?
No, I don't want to belabor the presentation. Obviously, there's, as part of I think the board well knows just from previous discussions and some of the review letters, there was a previous approval that called for off-site improvements at the intersection of Phoenixville Pike, Sidley Road, and Yellow Springs. Even though the township has subsequently adopted a traffic impact fee, the applicant is still willing to do a similar suite of improvements to that intersection. So likely, as part of the drafting of the resolution, there would be a condition that this sort of spells that out. And I believe, Lou, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You and your client are sort of have agreed to that condition in principle. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. The township has requested that, obviously, to the extent that the private sector can do these improvements, we can do it more economically and do it cheaper. And Chris Williams has been very helpful with our traffic consultant in coming up with a protocol for those improvements. So, by the time the board sees a resolution on this in September, I'm sure that language will be nailed down. But yes, we are amenable to that arrangement.
Yeah, aside from that, I don't think there's anything that needs to be discussed in specific. You've got the review letters and the staff memo, so if there's anything that you'd like me to weigh in on, just let me know.
No? Again, we've seen this before, except for those modifications. So I guess at this point in time, if there are no other questions, public comment questions, then I will entertain a motion. Rich?
Sure, I'll make a motion to authorize solicitor to draft a resolution for LD 19-2020 for 20 Moores Road office building.
Do I have a second?
I am thrilled that we're going to have somebody's willing to build a new office building in this climate, so I will second.
I'm sorry, you,
I will second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I couldn't hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
So Zach, if you can lead us on the parking lot expansion for right lane?
Sure. Yeah, this is, we've had a couple of these recently where they're looking to do parking expansions for a number of reasons. This is a combined preliminary slash final land development application to construct a parking lot containing 28 spaces on Lot 15 of the Commons at Great Valley Corporate Center. Still on the south side of General Warren Boulevard, sort of near the township boundary with Charlestown. The proposed lot is intended to serve as additional parking for the village at General Warren Commercial Center on the north side of the road. That's where the PJ Wellahans and Residence Inn by Marriott are located. I believe this applicant is likewise represented by Mr. Calagreco, and their engineer is on hand. So with that, I'll turn it to them if there's anything they'd like to add and sort of orient the board to the what's being proposed.
Sure. Thank you, Zach. If you could punch up the plan, this is a fairly simple proposal. It's really, a proposal for a 28 space, I think it's 28 space or maybe 29 space parking lot to facilitate what's become a very successful project in Charlestown Township. The applicant is presently going through some entitlements in Charlestown to, increase parking in Charlestown as well. But again, after the past 6 or 7 months of working with East Whiteland, we've come up with this plan that essentially is nothing more than, I don't mean to diminish it, but it's nothing more than a 28 lot or space parking lot. We've improved pedestrian connectivity. We're going to have enhanced pedestrian connectivity from the lot across to the development in Charlestown, and Adam Brower can speak to that. But again, you can see right there in that circle, that little parking lot down there in the bottom, that's the extent of what we're seeking to have the board approve. We can answer any questions that you would like.
Rich, Sue, any questions?
None, looks fine.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. So I will entertain a motion, Rich?
Sure, I make a motion to authorize solicitor draft a resolution for LD 01-2021 for the Commons at Great Valley, Lot 15 parking lot expansion.
Have a second, Sue?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
Yeah, you too.
Yep.
Six C, Zach, some simple things, nothing unusual here, is there?
No, sir. These are just extensions of the required timelines. The first is for a project on Coffin Street or Coffin Avenue. I've seen it both ways. They're currently working through some utility issues, and they've requested some additional time to work through that before resubmitting. The second here is for the project we just discussed. This extension would carry them to the September board meeting where a decision could be rendered.
Sue, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve an extension of time for a decision on SD 17-2020 for a 3-lot subdivision at 31 Kaufman, extended to November 30th of 2021.
Have a second?
You want the other one or not?
Oh, yeah, why don't you do the second one as well?
And an extension of time for LD 01-2021 for a parking lot at 83 General Warren Boulevard to September 30th, 2021.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. No issues with financial security releases. And then we have 6E.
Yes, sir. This is a request to consider authorizing advertising of a zoning ordinance amendment. This is a zoning map amendment that would rezone a township-owned property located at 6 Mill Lane, which is, if you're looking at a map, just south or just behind the firehouse. This is on the larger municipal complex and as part of the anticipated land development project for the new police station. This map amendment would seek to just make the township campus all zoned institutional, whereas this property is currently zoned R1 residential. So just from a development standpoint and from a use standpoint, in order to allow that police station project to move forward, this rezoning would have to take place.
Simple.
We would, just for, in terms of timeline and calendar math here, we would anticipate likely that this would go to the Planning Commission in September and come back for a hearing at the board in October. And what we'll try to do is align that with the land development submission, so that in the first instance where it's discussed by the Planning Commission, the rezoning will also be discussed.
Okay. Rich?
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize the advertising for the zoning map amendment to rezone township-owned property at 6 Mill Lane from R1 to INS.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 It passes. We didn't need Rich. We didn't need it. Yes. Jeez. Moving on, Ted, if you can talk very loud, because I'm having a hard time hearing everybody.
Okay.
You can kind of give us an update on your activities with permits and taking care of the township.
Certainly. Thank you and good evening, everyone. So recent activities, I have correspondence from both 53 Village Way and 25 Beechwood Road that both of those properties are supposed to go to settlement sometime by the end of the month. 34 Birch, the other property I've been keeping an eye on, has been somewhat secured and rehung some gutter that was leaning. And that one is probably a little further out to my understanding, but at least they're cutting the grass and taking care of it for the time being. I have a property on Lee Boulevard that was sent a notice for sanitation and insect infestation. Property on Kevin Way that has a stagnating pool that went out. There's the two properties on Lancaster Avenue, being 585 Lancaster was the White House on the corner of Prospect and Lancaster Avenue that had a lot of peeling paint and some of the wood siding missing. That has been all cleaned up and is finally painted and basically comes off our radar at this point. 577 Lancaster being the structure that was burned out next to the Wawa on the corner of Plainbrook. That property is working towards demolition. They did find some asbestos and are abating that situation, which has slowed the process a little bit, but looking forward to that being done in the next few weeks, being demoed.
You did say demolition, didn't you?
That is correct on that one. Then 14 Prospect is one that they were working on, reconstructing some of the house that had been sitting for quite a while. Right now we're waiting for an engineer's report on how to repair some things and what all needs to be repaired. So we're waiting for that correspondence to come in, and then that should pick up again. Had another property on Prospect that was complaining about chickens on the loose and burning and loud music, and the neighbors have been notified, and it seems to have been somewhat better, but sometimes it still rears its head. And of course, I've notified not only the neighbors, but the fire department as well. There are several people there to keep an eye on the burning issue. The loud music, I know the police would respond to if it gets out of hand. I have a property up on the very edge of the township on King Road that has quite a bit of accumulation of trash. My understanding, and I have to get back out there this week yet, is that they've been cleaning up the trash, and hopefully that is the case. There's been numerous letters that went out for high grass that are in violation of our property maintenance code, including the one at 59 Fawnstock, which I believe, and I know there's been some interest in that one specifically. It's my understanding the landscaper is going to be out there tomorrow to take care of that one. I have another property on Village Way that has been operating a landscaping business that was sent a notice of violation. They've gone beyond what should be in a residential property. Quite a bit of equipment around, using the street as their staging and even cleaning out their vehicles. So that one is on my list as well. And a letter went out to the Fetters Mill Community Association to maintain the buffer area, which is a requirement of their land development approval in perpetuity. So that really wraps up my list of property maintenance for this month.
Thank you. Good job on all that.
Thank you. So, shall I just jump right into the zoning hearing board?
Please. That'd be
Okay.
great.
First up is an application of Mainline Armory LLC, and if I can dispel some of the rumors that are going around that this is an outdoor shooting range. This is not an outdoor shooting range. This is an indoor range that is fully encased in concrete that is being proposed along with a retail component and an educational component. They would have a lounge in there as well for their members. They're seeking a special exception from 200-41 attachment number 8 to allow a gun range, like I said, with educational retail and a lounge. The property is located at 63 Ton Road, which is in the industrial zoning district. And basically they'd be able to open a firearms store in a retail location without all the restrictions, but they've been very willing to work with both the police department and myself. I don't know if the chief has anything to add here. We have come up with a list of conditions that we'd like the zoning hearing board to impose if and when I guess they make their motion. So,
Ted, could I ask you just for clarification?
Surely.
When you reference lounge, you're not talking about liquor bar lounge?
No.
Relaxing?
No. Relaxing, maybe cigars.
Okay.
Yeah, Ted, I have the basic question. The application is for a special exception. I don't see anywhere in the I district special exception descriptions that even come close to a shooting range and a retail gun outlet. Is this just the application, let's see what happens and hope no neighbors come out to object kind of thing, just like the beer garden, or I just don't see where it fits in?
Well, the industrial district is the catch-all district that says anything that is not specifically or of the same general character. So we have recreational uses, which some might consider a shooting range as a recreation. We don't have anywhere that it's specifically enumerated, so the industrial district becomes that catch-all.
Says any use of the same general character as any other use permitted in the I district. So in order to fit into that so-called catch-all, it still has to play off of an existing listed use, the way I read it. I don't know that this is more of a variance request than a special exception. You know, when I read the presentation, the principals are totally professional, their background wonderful, their service, their expertise, everything. I don't know if we need another gun shop in our township. I just, you know, in the beginning we had problems with the first one, and I just, if this goes forward to a hearing at the zoning hearing board, will this be, who gets notices of this? Do the houses over on, it's Judith Lynn Way, do they actually get noticed of it, or are these people going to use the excuse that there's a railroad between them and not tell anybody at Judith Lynn that this could be across the railroad from them? Any idea?
Well, yes, I guess the legal answer is that, of course, it's the immediate adjoining properties that get notified in those across the street. So there is no legal requirement to notify the neighbors. I know that there's, from understanding, that there's a lot of social media activity around this, but I think most of that rhetoric is with regard to an outdoor gun range, which is obviously not the proposal here.
No, it never
If you
will
want
be.
to, the ordinance calls for the minimum. The township can notify as many people as they like.
Right.
So if you want a certain neighborhood or geographic boundary notified, the staff can do that.
I think they should have to, at least the Judith Lynn properties within their boundary. I mean, once you notice a few of them, obviously everybody's going to know. I don't know. I'm not so sure this is a special exception either. And I know they offered to have our police use it, which is great, but they don't need it because we're going to build our own. So that's nice, but not needed. I don't know if we need another one. What do you guys think?
Are you concerned about the range or the retail?
More the retail than the range. As I started reading the application, I said range, oh, see, that looks nice. And then I kept reading, and then the retail, and then the niceness of it, which is nice, will just attract more people. And do we need 2 outlets in our township?
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know what the rules are. My understanding on selling guns is that we have limited ability to restrict it.
Generally true, except the relief that's being requested still has to fit within our zoning ordinance. The retail store on Route 30, that was retail. So there was nothing we could do about that.
Right.
And
So if it was just a range, you wouldn't object?
range I'd be okay with, yeah.
I don't know if we
But I
have
don't know if
any
that would-
option for that.
That
But
way may not support the business.
Yeah,
Right,
I don't know.
Exactly, yeah, I know.
So it looks like the applicant would like to say a few words. So you
Sure.
want to let him on?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Greg,
fine.
You want
Yeah,
to unmute
sure.
yourself?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. Just to be clear, it's the retail component only feeds the training. This is actually, it's not a retail store or a gun range with training, with classrooms. This is a training center, and it's a law enforcement and civilian. The retail portion is only to keep me afloat. It's not geared to having hundreds and hundreds of guns on display. It is solely for people who want to learn to safely and responsibly own and fire a weapon. I've spent a lot of time with the chief. We've gone over security. That was the downfall of Chester County's outdoors. The security measures that I'm taking are greater than most gun stores in the area or even ranges. I'm taking the community safety to heart. I'm a Pennsylvania State Trooper. I used to stand in front of Judge Bailey all the time as an advocate. I'm very familiar with East Whiteland. I'm not just some fat cat who's coming in to make money. I'm doing this, I honestly believe this will better the community and everybody around by possessing and operating and handling firearms safely. The retail portion, like I just want to stress that if that was a concern, it's really not a big part of it. Yes, there's going to be ammunition because you have to have that to shoot it at the range. But the gun sales is not that big of a part. I do invite everyone on Judith Lane. I believe there's like another Carroll Drive, I believe there. I'll invite them all because I want them to understand that I put the planning into this, and I have a huge presentation that you referenced that goes over sound abatement, environmental, safety, both in and outside my business, and security. And I think I personally will send letters if you guys would like to the Judith Lane residents, because I want them to be comfortable and understand that they're not going to be bothered by my business.
I think that'd be helpful. Yeah, because if anybody would have an issue with it, it would be that street. There is no other residences even close to that. I mean, that would satisfy me to at least not necessarily take the step to send our solicitor to formally object to it. Because if anybody's going to object to it and you have to work with them, it'll be those residents. I'm okay with that step, sure. I mean, and your background is impeccable. I absolutely have no problem with your background and sincerity and all that. But
thank you.
You know, we just need to be careful.
I understand, and I will. I mean, I have a big presentation, like I said, but I do want you to understand that although I'm not formally living in your community, I'm going to be a part of your community. I care about whatever community I go into. You know, sponsoring baseball teams, having community events, and the big thing that I want to get out now is that this isn't just gun training. In my presentation, there's going to be CPR classes for new parents, car seat installs, self-defense for women. I mean, it goes further than firearms. So it's an all-inclusive training center, and I don't want people to think that it's just going to be, you know, the Wild West on 63-ton road.
Okay.
Mr. Butler will also be, I guess, represented by counsel at zoning hearing board, and if the zoning hearing board feels as though the special exception for the retail component is not the right avenue, they can obviously amend their application and ask for variance as well.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
Thank you for going the extra mile and the notifications.
The second application, then, if we're ready to move on, is from Turf Club Opco, which is actually the park's off-track betting in the Chicky and Pete's, a small betting parlor there, I guess. And they are looking for a sign of 42.5 square feet on one side of the, I guess, the shopping center, inside the shopping center side of the Chicky and Pete's restaurant.
Any representative online or?
Yes. I don't know. Is Mr. Strom on, Donna?
I don't see him. Would he be under a different name? There's somebody with the phone number. Maybe it's him.
Chris, if you're on, can you make yourself known?
I don't think he's on.
I have a question, Ted. The
Sure.
variance request is for how many square feet above the permitted?
The funny thing in this particular situation is that the Grove Shopping Center is in the Office Business Park Services zoning district, and they really don't contemplate a shopping center. They're basically on the lot only allowed 4 signs over 5 square feet. Their signs are not permitted to be within 150 feet of each other in the Office Business Park zoning district. So the ordinance doesn't line up at all with a shopping center, basically.
And that's for the entire development, those provisions?
Yes.
So everyone's going to be asking for a variance? Every
Fair amount,
sign almost, right?
We've had a few of them, yes. One of the sections we're working on changing.
Yeah, we should, because you know what I don't like about this one is not necessarily the sign. This is this is a use that we weren't aware of in the very beginning when land development was submitted. And I find it very hard to believe that the applicant landowner was not aware of it at the time and waited to raise this until after land development occurred. It almost feels like it was intentionally hidden, the sports betting part of it, and to try to sneak it in as an accessory use, which it was. And I did not like that at all.
So I did just get an email. I did just get an email from council. He's on his phone and he wants to know how he unmutes. I'm not sure that I'm the right person to answer that question. It might be, I'm not sure, a cell phone ending in 3285. Donna, or if somebody can help him.
There, the mute just went off.
I think I just unmuted it.
This is Chris Strom.
Chris, okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chris. If you want to kind of jump in, I'm not sure if you heard everything that's been said.
I did. Just so the board knows, I am counsel for Parks, not for the prior applicant for the Chickies and Pete's. As Mr. Walker explained, my client is just looking for, I believe it's a special exception and a variance to the existing sign ordinance, so that my client can install a sign on the exterior of this building.
I think we had a very difficult time understanding and hearing exactly what you said.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. He just he represents Parks Casino. He wasn't involved with Chicky and Pete's, wasn't involved with the landowner, so he's coming in fresh, which I understand. How does this variance request interact with, there was also a variance request from Chicky and Pete's, right?
That is correct.
That was given, I believe, because it wasn't actually lit, per se. Yeah, it was more of a garage
It
painting.
was that thing on the wall, right?
Right.
Okay.
Didn't quite fit in there.
That's, all right. Okay, that really wasn't a sign.
Yeah, it was a crab thing.
All right. Is this typical of the signage sizes Parks has? How many other sports betting areas similar to this does Parks have in the general area? Do you know?
Chris, can you answer that?
I think he is answering it. We're not hearing him.
No, I can't hear him. No. All right.
He actually just dropped off.
Yeah.
Chris, if you can email me that number, that would be great. I can pass it along.
They're going to get a variance. If the underlying zoning district doesn't even contemplate a shopping center with strips of stores, they're going to get a variance. So, all right.
It sounds like your argument is more with the use than with the sign. You can't have a shopping center restricted to the kind of signage that we'd have in a business.
No,
An office park. That doesn't make sense.
No. That's right.
So I don't think we need
Go
to.
ahead.
I don't think we need to get into this one.
Okay.
Those are the-
Gone, but
Those are the end of the two applications I have presently.
Hello?
Chris, is that you?
Yeah, sorry, I got disconnected. So, as I was saying, go ahead.
The question was how many other facilities does Parks have, I guess, within the general vicinity?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I don't believe they have any that are nearby. My recollection was there was an off-track betting location down 422, but I am not sure if that is still open and operational.
Right. I believe Audubon has a Chickies and Pete's on Trooper Road
it does. Yeah,
near,
right across
near
the-
Egypt Road. I think that's probably the closest facility.
Yeah, okay. All right. Go ahead. We gotta work on that ordinance. We gotta work on that ordinance.
And any ordinance change will not impact this development, correct, Ted?
It'll affect future applications.
Right, right.
Okay.
Well, but if the ordinance is done properly for a shopping center, there shouldn't be a need for many variances. Right. So, all right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ted. Any other exclamation points, Ted, on this?
No, I think that's pretty straightforward. It is in the Grove Shopping Center at 10 Liberty Boulevard, and it's again within the Office Business Park Services zoning district.
Okay. Moving on then, Donna, this is your agenda. Public comment?
No one. No public comment.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda on the home stretch. Speaking of the turf club. Why don't I go ahead and read the consent agenda? And if anyone has any specific questions, raise it at that point in time. Consent agenda 9A, approve the meeting minutes from July 14, 2021. B, ratify payments of bills in the amount of $929,106,096 for July of 2021. D, approve a proposal from General Code for interactive zone mapping in the amount of $6,490. I think this is worth just a 2-minute description of what the zoning map can do for our residents. Zach, can you give a
Sure.
2-minute hit?
Yeah, I can do that. So basically, this will be similar to some of the other interactive maps you see online. I know a lot of people have gotten familiar with Chesco views. It'll essentially be a parcel map with the zoning designations. But in addition to just being able to sort of look at the map, you'll be able to click on it, learn things about the zoning designation and even the specific standards that apply to that district. So for example, you could click the township property, see that it's zoned institutional, but then in addition, sort of click through the code from that map. It's a very interactive. It's all synchronized with our online e-code system.
Yeah, it sounds like a very slick program, informal, and should help our residents through this maze that we have to deal with every single day. So I think that's a great one. All right. E. Sue, any questions? No. Rich? No. Okay. On
No
E,
questions.
ratify the purchase of an APC Smart UPS system, 3 of them for server protection for the police in the amount of $6,754. Approve a resolution of support and financial commitment of $150,000 for Charlestown Township's grant application to Department of Community and Economic Development. Multimodal Transportation Fund for Phoenixville Pike and Sydney Yellow Springs Road intersection improvements. And G, finally, approve an increase of the Aero budget for additional services related to Backton Hill Park by the amount of $12,250 to a grand total of $67,801.75.
Mhm.
Did I miss the
Yes.
treasurer's report? I
Yes, you did.
C.
I reverse back to C, thank you, Sue, to accept the treasurer's report as of June 30th, 2021. Do I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
A motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Any other business out there?
I wanted to ask a question. Oop, it's on. It says on the list of the upcoming volunteer meetings, it says they're all going to be in person. Is that still true?
That is true.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good enough.
I mean, once the emergency declaration was terminated, then we have to, right?
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Okay.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.